Lawyers are increasingly predicting that failed former President Donald Trump is inevitably going to be indicted. And we're going to look at one of those op-eds momentarily. Now, there are many people asking, if Trump is indicted, is he going to be arrested and perp walked and booked at a federal prison the way that many so-called normal people are? And I believe the answer is obviously not, and we're going to get back to that in a moment. But let's first start with the case that is increasingly being made. Very interesting article in the Daily Beast by Brad Moss, who says it's over. Trump will be indicted. The case is as follows. Brad Moss says Donald Trump will be indicted by a federal grand jury. And he believes that the reason for that is as follows. Number one, Trump was in unauthorized possession of national defense information, namely properly marked classified documents. Number two, Trump was put on notice by the U.S. government that he was not permitted to retain those documents at Mar-a-Lago. And number three, Trump continued to maintain possession of the documents and allegedly undertook efforts to conceal them in different places throughout the property up until the FBI finally executed a search warrant earlier this month. And Moss says, this is the ballgame, folks. Absent some unforeseen change in factual or legal circumstances, he believes there is little left for the Justice Department to do but to decide, do you indict before the midterms or after the midterms in terms of what you ask for the grand jury? And as Moss also points out, the cruelest irony for Trump is it never needed to be this way. And that's a theme with Donald Trump. Much of the problems that Donald Trump gets into, many of the problems are a result of Trump's own doing and self-inflicted harm. So let's now think this through. If Trump is indicted, will he be arrested, booked, perp walked at a federal prison? The answer is almost certainly not. Donald Trump will almost certainly be given the opportunity to present himself to the FBI on his own terms. And it's all going to be handled in a very different way than it is with so-called mere mortals. And I use that term extraordinarily sarcastically. Now, there is a counterpoint to that, which is when you look at what Trump is being investigated for, based on all of the documents that we now have, when you're talking about Espionage Act violations, you often don't give those people a chance to turn themselves in. You arrest them. And that's an absolutely perfectly natural analysis. But it's Trump. It's Trump, and we have to set our expectations correctly. The FBI and Secret Service would almost certainly just coordinate the delivery of Trump to the Justice Department. Trump will probably be not. By the way, let's not get ahead of ourselves. If and when this happens, it's going to be a historic moment. It's going to be both in American history, unquestionably. And they will say it's unprecedented, and that means it's wrong. Well, no, Trump did things no president did, so now the outcomes are also different than they were with any other president. But Donald Trump is almost certainly going to fundraise off of this. If Donald Trump is indicted and he's given some bail amount, he is going to fundraise off of it. It's going to be absolutely incredible to see Donald Trump doing this. So I think if we want to be as realistic as possible, I would put out of your minds that you're going to see Trump in an orange jumpsuit behind bars. I would bet anything I have that that's not going to happen. I'm with you that Trump and the people around him who were complicit in what are now countless instances of wrongdoing, they deserve to be prosecuted and found guilty in prison. There's no doubt about it. But even just think about it. I mean, Trump in a federal prison, like even if it was plausible that Trump would be sentenced, it is a national security risk to have a former president in a federal prison. It's an insane conversation that we're even having. But if I think ahead 5, 6, 7, 8 steps, and I think about if there are charges and if there's a conviction or a plea deal that involves some kind of serious consequence, it's Trump restricted to one of his luxury clubs, right? I mean, I think we would all probably agree that's the direction it goes. But the big headline is not that. That's speculative. That's about the future. The big headline is lawyers increasingly believe Trump is going to be indicted. And the growing question is, what exactly is Donald Trump's legal defense going to be? And that's what I want to talk about next.